Hi, I'm Mark Gibbs with The Great Outdoors, and today, if you haven't been with us before, sometimes we give you tips on plantings, tips on styles of plants to use. Today I'm going to be talking about prep. It's the peak heat still right now. We're just starting September, and this is a wonderful time. We're getting in the waning months of summer, waning days. So we want people to be thinking about if you have a project coming up, whether it's a planting project or maybe a hardscape project. This is a super time to be getting some of those measurements out of the way and getting some of your planning stages done. Part of this comes down to budget. You know how you go to the grocery store and you don't have a list and all of a sudden you leave with 3 carts worth of stuff? Well, hopefully this is a way to start planning when you come to the nursery, what you need to look for, sizes you need to look for, and kind of where your budget may land. So you can get some ideas on the cost of materials. If you go to our website, gonursery.com, on the services part of the tabs at the top, when you go down there is a design tab. When you hit on that page of designs, there's three different styles. You can print this PDF. You don't have to have an appointment, but you can print this PDF, which is a questionnaire. We sort of expanded it, but it also has some graph paper on it as well. So the reason we would like folks to do this is these questions will help you narrow down your focus when you get ready for a project. And having those measurements in hand will really help you understand when you're picking materials how big something is going to be in the future. Is it going to be appropriate for the space? And also, we're going to look at it in a few minutes, the depth of materials that you might need to use. Also picking up a free Grow Green manual. You can go to growgreen.org, or we have the manuals here in the nursery. When it comes to plant sizes and materials, it gives you pictures and then all these great specs. So how big something's going to be, what the spread's going to be, where it wants to be located. These are all things that the questionnaire helps you discover, and then you can look through here and start picking some options that you're really leaning toward for that space. Then it comes down to budgeting. So as you can see, we've got a large 30-gallon on a live oak here. These are going to run around $300, okay? So again, as a budgeting necessity comes along, you may be needing to prepare an area to put that. It's a great time to get those areas prepared. That's a $300 tree. If you jump over to something in a 7-gallon on the red bud here, you're looking at around $100. So as you're coming down in sizes, you may be able to get more into your budget, and also the labor potential is going to drop a little bit if you're planting something a little bit smaller. So this is a wonderful time to look, get some ideas on what you may be wanting to replace. Is it going to be a shade tree? Is it going to be some new shrubs? Are you wanting to dress up your foundation? Do you want evergreen? Do you want deciduous? Do you want perennials? All of these things come into play and help you really focus down with the Grow Green on getting some ideas and some options, making sure you get those measurements right so you get your spacing right. The mature size on this is going to help you dictate how far apart you'll need to put trees or shrubs. If it's going to get 5 feet wide, then you want at least 3 to 4 feet between your plantings so they're just holding hands when they get mature. A lot of times people think it may look a little sparse, but if you use the right planting techniques and get the fertilizer in there and your soil prepped properly, you're going to have a pretty fast growth rate return. Our little poem is, the plants will sleep the first year, creep the second year, and leap the third year. You can speed that up with the right soils, the right fertilizer, and the proper maintenance. So think along that line also. If you're needing something to look like it's been established for a while, you may need to put more money in the budget for something larger. We're going to talk about top dresses next and how you would go about approaching your top dress. And then I do want to mention soils. When you're preparing for a new planting, 70% of the existing soil needs to stay, 30% new needs to be added to that amendment. That 30% new is going to refresh the soil a little bit. You may do 10% compost and then 20% of a landscape blend. But we want that native soil to be around for these plants so that those roots will acclimate, and when they get to the side of the hole, they won't turn back in on themselves. They'll be able to penetrate outside that hole and keep right on going. That's a really important factor to put into your equation here, is getting all those soils mixed well together so your plant's going to settle down early on, it's going to have the fertilizer available, and it's going to keep on rooting. We want to do this in the fall because plants are going to sleep. The ideal situation is we have a nice cool winter, that root system's regenerating, and then in the spring, when the daylight hours begin to extend, nighttime temps come up, these guys wake up and they start that penetration mode of moving out into that existing soil base and they're a lot happier, a lot less stress, and then even your maintenance in the spring is not going to be as bad because you won't be having to take care of it as long because it's going to have a good established root system. So let's head on over and take a look at some hardscape options. So we talked about thinking about your plant selections and where you may be putting them, spacing, things like that. The next thing we want to talk about is our top dress. These days, the top dress capacities are endless. There's colored glass in all sorts of shapes and sizes, beautiful colors. There's different mixed pebbles. Again, they come in larger size bags. The black polished pebbles, and any of the granite, any of the Apache rock, the lava rock, or just plain old basic river rock, egg rock. So one of the things you have to think about here is what your square footage is going to be and how deep do you want it. Say this may be an expensive choice for your budget. Well, you could start off with it a little bit more shallow and continue to add to it over time. You don't have to hit your immediate depth. If you're working around oak trees or tree root systems, you don't ever want to go more than 2 to 3 inches because that will cause damage to the root system of the plant in the long term of the tree. So you want to think a little bit shallower toward the trunk on a tree and maybe up to 3 inches when you get further away. But start looking at those options, what your square footage needs are going to be divided by how deep you want it, and then you can begin pricing out those materials. One of the reasons I bring this up is we do sell all these materials by the bag, even if you're just going to be doing a hardwood mulch, but there comes a point where the numbers will trade over and it may be cheaper to get something in a bulk size. If you're going to be using yards and yards of material, you can always buy it by the bag if that's easier for portability and for putting it out and spreading it. But if you're looking at doing, 12 yards of mulch or something, obviously you want to maybe get some bids on having that mulch delivered in bulk, and then you hiring someone out as a labor need to get that spread for you, or if you want to do it yourself, putting that time in your strategy to get that spread. These are just cost things that you want to try to have in the budget. The cool thing is, even if you're doing containers, knowing the size of your container, knowing the types of plants that are going to go in that container, and then knowing what you may want to have as a top dress to make it pop or stand out. Maybe you want to do a monochromatic glass with the color of the pot. Maybe you want to do a white pebble on a blue pot or a red pot. It depends on the location and what you're looking for. But having all those things sort of planned in so you know what your budget can allow for is really going to take some of the stress out of getting your plan done. So look at the numbers, look at the different things that are available, think outside the box. Every design and every installation is personal to what you want to see and what you want to have around you. If you have any questions, please check with us at the nursery at the Great Outdoors. Ask for me or anybody else here on staff and we'll help you start nailing down your choices. And if you've got your questionnaire with you and we can help you answer anything else or fill in any more blanks, we'd be glad to help out.